Nate Diaz versus the undefeated Khamzat Chimaev easily goes down as the biggest mismatch of this year. The fight is scheduled for UFC 279 and has received a ton of criticism from both fighters and fans. Former UFC fighter Dan Hardy has even suggested pressing charges against the promotion for setting up such an unfair fight. Keep watching this video as we tell you more on what Dan had to say about the fight. First up, a live execution. Honestly speaking, it just feels like the UFC is teasing Diaz with the whole Khamzat fight. Like, literally everyone can see this fight is a huge mismatch. But the fact that Dana and the UFC are still going through with it makes all of this seem like a punishment. Is Diaz getting punished for publicly calling out the UFC? Or is this all just a nasty trick to see Diaz get beat up bad in his last fight at the promotion? Dan Hardy certainly thinks so. Hardy said it just seems like a really cruel thing to do to such a legitimate UFC veteran. Think about it, the Stockton Slugger has been at the UFC for over a decade now, and this is the only fight the UFC could come up with? Believe it or not, Dan actually suggested that someone should consider pressing charges against the UFC for setting up such a dumb fight. Because they've spoken out against the organization, they're going to be executed live on TV. That's word for word what Dan had to say when asked to comment on the mismatch. Next, we totally agree this fight isn't fair, but Hardy may be exaggerating just a bit. Nate's a big boy, and he can handle himself. He's been fighting since he was a child. Is he going to get beat up really bad? Probably. But will he go down as a UFC legend? No, because he already is a UFC legend. The fact that Nate even took this fight just shows you how this guy literally doesn't care what the UFC throws at him anymore. Just signing this fight is like a huge middle finger to Dana and the promotion. And as for Hardy, all we can say is that it makes us feel really uncomfortable too, but backing out isn't in the OG's blood. We'll just have to sit through the fight and see an MMA legend get punished for being an outspoken fighter who isn't scared of anything. Next, Diaz is also responsible. Now, there's no doubt Diaz has always been sort of a problem child for the UFC. He's crashed press conferences, slapped reporters, and even pissed out the athletics center. But still, that's no reason to throw him into a death match. And the welterweight division is pretty competitive, so no matter who the UFC matched him against, it would have been a difficult fight for the 37-year-old. But it doesn't really help when the only two guys he wants to fight are champions in another weight class. A month ago, Diaz was talking about how the only two fighters worthy of taking him on in the cage were Israel Adesanya and Francis Ngannou. That really doesn't help, to be honest. And what's interesting is that a lot of UFC insiders claim he turned down 4 to 5 opponents before the promotion even suggested Khamzat. So yeah, at the end of the day, Diaz is equally responsible for putting himself in this situation. And now for an uncomfortable watch. Hardy is still unconvinced though. He thinks Diaz had no part to play in getting this fight. So what if he's been critical of the UFC? It's not like the Stockton Slugger just started talking trash last night or something. He's known for being real and calling everyone out to their faces, whether that's another fighter, a reporter, or even Dana. In fact, that's what makes him so popular in the first place. This guy literally has a cult following. It doesn't even matter if he wins or loses, the fans always have his back. And even in this situation, the fans are still backing him to put on a show against the scary Khamzat Chimaev. What's the worst that can happen? He'll break a nose, have a bloody eye or something? It's not like he has anything to lose now. His legacy has already been cemented at the UFC, and no one can take that away from him. Not Khamzat, and certainly not Dana. And we can sort of understand why Hardy is so worried and thinks it's going to be a real uncomfortable watch, but it's not like it's a fight till death arrangement or something. Still, we agree with what Dan had to say about the promotion though. He said it's shameful how the UFC is trying to execute one last assassination attempt on Diaz before he leaves the promotion for the good. And if anything, it's not going to end bad for Nate, it's actually going to end bad for the UFC. The promotion and Dana has once again proved that they don't give fighters respect when they're no longer useful to them. It happened with Anderson Silva, it's happening with Ngannou, and now Nate. The only person who looks bad in all of this is Dana White. Half of the roster is afraid to speak up because they need to put food on the table. The other half wants to leave because they don't get paid enough, and the top 1% couldn't care less because they're getting all the dough. Anyway, we're supporting both fighters in this situation. If Khamzat wins, it'll be a good launch for his career. If Diaz wins, he'll be celebrated as a hero. The only thing we want is for both fighters to keep it respectful. Time for some more on the UFC. Up next, it's all good from my side. We don't know why everyone is trying to blow this fight out of proportion, like both Khamzat and Diaz have no bad blood. And yes, Nate did talk about how he thinks Khamzat doesn't like him or anything, but believe it or not, we're actually seeing a real mature side of the Chechen-born fighter. Khamzat said he really respects Diaz for taking this fight because the Stockton Slugger knows he's younger and more hungry to win. The undefeated welterweight also talked about how he actually likes Nate despite what everyone is saying. When Khamzat was a little boy in school, Nate was putting on mega performances in the UFC, so it doesn't really make any sense how it could be a good move to start disrespecting him all of a sudden. And even though Khamzat said that he's going to handle Nate's funeral at the UFC, we're glad that there's nothing bad between these guys. Let's talk about about some new rules. UFC stars better get used to 2 new rules that probably won't impact the game too much, but still, rules are rules. We can't even count how many good fights we've missed because of low blows and eye pokes. In most cases, eye pokes and low blows are usually accidental, but the fighter on the receiving end has to forfeit the fight, leading to a no contest. But with the new UFC rules, fighters will now have up to 5 minutes to recover before the referee announces a no contest. The question still remains, can a fighter even recover from an eye poke or a gut shot in just 5 minutes? It's still compromising fighter safety in our opinion. Like, you have to imagine how these guys spend months training for a fight. To see all that go down the drain because of a cheap shot just sucks. But with this rule, fighters will feel alright in 5 minutes and then magically start fighting like nothing happened? We don't think so. Something is better than nothing though, right? Oh, and fighters are now allowed to wear neoprene sleeves. This rule will only help fighters that are recovering from an arm or maybe knee injury, but hey, if someone wants to look all flashy in the octagon, then why not? Finally, a scary stare down. Juliana Pena versus Amanda Nunes is almost here. This fight will easily go down as one of the biggest rematches in UFC history. The fight is scheduled for UFC 277 with not 1 but 2 belts up for grabs. Pena literally shocked the entire fight world when she submitted Nunes to win both titles at UFC 269. Both fans and fighters thought Amanda Nunes was unbeatable, and even though she lost to Juliana, there's no doubt she's still the greatest female MMA fighter alive. But we're guessing all that aggression has been building up inside her, and she can't wait to let it out on July 30th. Pena doesn't really care though. She didn't win by luck or something. She proved the entire world wrong, and from the looks of it, she's ready to do it again. It was a really scary stare down. Both fighters refused to break and showed no signs of weaknesses. It's pretty obvious they can't wait to beat each other up though. That's it from our side, folks. So what do you think? Is Nate versus Khamzat the biggest mismatch of this year? And is Dana trying to give him punishment for calling him out? Let us know in the comments below. Remember, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more entertaining content in the future. Thanks for watching, guys, and see you next time.